Yo, what's happening everyone? It's me, it's Count, and this is my spoiler discussion video for the movie Detective Pikachu. Now, if you haven't seen this movie yet, I highly suggest you click off this video, go and watch the movie, and come on right back. There is a lot of fun stuff to talk about regarding this movie, and you really can't appreciate it unless you've seen the movie. So definitely go and check out the movie before watching this video. And if you have watched the movie and you end up enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if it's your first time here, and without further ado, let's talk about Detective Pikachu. Alright, so Detective Pikachu, what a phenomenal movie for Pokemon fans, right? So if you enjoy Pokemon in any way, shape, or form, even if it's your first experience was Pokemon Go, I really think you could have enjoyed this movie for all it was worth. There was just a lot of fan service in this movie. There was a lot of Pokemon sprinkled in throughout all of the different scenes, and it was just an enjoyable experience. First thing that I really want to talk about is, of course, Ryan Reynolds as Detective Pikachu. He did a phenomenal job just playing this little critter. And my goodness, like, Ryan Reynolds could essentially do anything. He could essentially be Ryan Reynolds in anything that he does, right? So you got Deadpool, and he does Deadpool really well, mainly because he's being Ryan Reynolds. And he kind of does the same thing here with Pikachu. He's Pikachu, but he's still Ryan Reynolds, and somehow it just absolutely works. One of the worries that I had going into this movie is that it would kind of be too Deadpool-ish, like it would just be a lot of one-liners. They would kind of take away a lot from the story just to add a few jokes here and there. And yes, there are definitely moments like that. There were times where I really wish that they kind of toned down the Pikachu corpse in order to better serve the story or what was going on in the scene. Like, a big example of that is when Tim Goodman was meeting the villain. I forgot his name. It was Henry or Harry. I actually got Harry and Henry mixed up a lot throughout the movie. I wonder if they did that on purpose because of the two father figures, right? Like, you got the evil father and then you got Tim's father, and they kind of have very similar names. I was getting confused there, but Bill Nighy's character, let's just say that. So Bill Nighy's character, he was kind of explaining through a lot of exposition what was going on, that he was basically hiring Tim's dad to find Mewtwo or whatever, and just a lot of stuff that was going on. And then you just see Pikachu in the background making a lot of these jokes and quirks. And it kind of took away a little bit from the scene. I felt like the scene was this very intense, just kind of dramatic moment, and yet you see Pikachu just kind of quirking jokes in the background, like, oh, what a twist, you know, that's very twisty, and, you know, just kind of being himself. I felt like it took away from the scene a little bit. Like, there were definitely moments like that, but there were other moments where having Ryan Reynolds in that scene definitely colored it up. It definitely livened up that scene, and I really appreciated that as well. Like, the big example of this is when Tim and, I believe her name is Lucy, like when they go to Lucy's office and she's trying to tell Tim about all the clues that she's already found regarding the case. And then of course you see Pikachu just adding into that scene, just injecting a lot of humor, like, oh my god, you didn't tell me that she had a Psyduck, like this guy is a living bomb, right? Like, he's just doing the whole Serenity Now, the whole Seinfeld reference. It was just absolutely hilarious, and it just added to that scene, because I feel like that scene would have been a little bit boring, it would have been a little bit slow. But because Pikachu was just injecting a lot of this humor and just a lot of this fast talk, it really worked, and I really enjoyed that scene a lot more. So yeah, Ryan Reynolds as Detective Pikachu, very effective for the movie, and I really enjoyed the fact that Ryan Reynolds was not afraid to be Ryan Reynolds as Detective Pikachu, because a lot of the moments just really worked. Now let's talk about Tim Goodman, Justice Smith. I really think he brought it because, of course, he is a big Pokemon fan. He always talks about how he played the original games and how he plays Pokemon Go. So, of course, he's going to bring his A game. This is kind of like the role of a lifetime for him. And there were definitely moments where I really felt the emotional impact from his acting. I think a lot of people were kind of giving him just not a lot of credit when it comes to his acting, because of course this is a kids movie, so of course there are definitely going to be moments where he's going to be a little bit more corny and a little bit more cheesy, and that's what's going to work. I mean, if you go back to, like, let's say Who Framed Roger Rabbit or the original Jumanji, there are definitely corny, cringy moments in those movies as well, but you gotta understand that the movie is meant for kids, not necessarily millennials like you and me. So yeah, there were definitely moments where he was being a little too cheesy and a little too corny, but it's fine because it was meant for the character, it was meant for the movie. But I really enjoyed his character arc, and I did actually see a little bit of character development throughout the movie. I know a lot of other critics were saying how they kind of wish they developed him a little bit more, but throughout the movie, as I was watching it, I did actually feel that growth within his character. So yeah. And then of course we had his kind of love interest, his companion, this reporter named Lucy. I really didn't enjoy this character at first. I felt like she was just way too much on the cheesy end. Like she was doing the whole cartoony, like, reporter kind of shtick, you know? And I really feel like this character was just ripped straight out of the anime. And if you watch the anime, the Pokemon anime, there are a lot of characters that are just extremely bubbly and just unrealistically just happy and just crazy like she is. And I feel like she just was taken directly from the anime and injected into this movie, and it didn't fit at times. But as the movie progressed and you see a lot more seriousness come out of this character, I felt like it was done a lot better. But yeah, just starting off, I just felt like it was just way too cheesy and a little bit too corny, especially that scene where you see her at the top of the stairwell and she sees Tim Goodman for the first time. Like, that whole sequence was just extremely cringy, and I was just like, oh god, I really hope this is not the entire movie. But turns out it wasn't. It was just kind of like that one scene. I just kind of wish they did a little bit more with her. Like, I felt like she was a little bit underdeveloped. They kind of did the thing where they focused mostly on Tim and Pikachu, which is of course important, but they just kind of left her to the side, and I just kind of didn't like that. Like, for example, the big scene where, you know, Pikachu gets hit by the rock and they have to, you know, they find the Bulbasaur, and then she's just kind of like, I'm gonna go wait at the car, and then you don't see her for a good chunk of time, and I don't know, I kind of wish she was there to kind of see everything unfold, that she could kind of give her take on everything that's going on, kind of share her wisdom to Tim. It's okay, I mean, she's a side character, she wasn't necessarily that important to the overall plot. So yeah, it is what it is. Alright, real quick, let's talk about all of the fan service that was in this movie. I mean, my goodness, they did a phenomenal job just catering to longtime Pokemon fans. There were so many little Easter eggs in the background that I absolutely enjoyed. You know, there was just so many great things about this movie, and I just absolutely enjoyed it. Like when they go to that underground fight club where you see Blastoise and Gengar just going at it, and you have the DJ just calling out all of the moves and just saying critical hit. Like, there were so many parts in this movie where I just really appreciated the fact that I was a Pokemon fan. And yes, I understand that if you are not immersed in Pokemon, like, there were a lot of things that you just were like, okay, I don't get it, but it was just a lot of fun. And I just think, like, regardless if you are a Pokemon fan or not, you could definitely enjoy this movie. But if you are a Pokemon fan, my goodness, there was a lot to enjoy from this movie. And yes, I did see this movie twice, and on my second showing, I did actually catch a lot of Pokemon that was on screen that I missed completely the first time around. That's something that I really enjoyed about this movie. Like, for example, like seeing that Togepi and that Rattata the second showing, like, I just completely missed them in the first showing. Like, stuff like that really just speaks to how awesome this movie is, that every time you watch this movie, there's just something you can get, something to enjoy a lot more. Now let's get into more of the storyline of Detective Pikachu. I mean, the movie is basically like one big episode of the anime, right? Like, instead of Tim Goodman, if you put Ash in there and animated it, like, it could have been a Pokemon animated movie, right? Like, I did enjoy it. I didn't think the plot had a lot of problems. I actually did think it had a good pace, and overall, like, it had this nice little detective story. But yeah, I could definitely feel the sense that this movie was meant for kids. There was very little for adults to just latch onto, I feel like. Maybe it's just me. But overall, I did enjoy the story. It was fun. It had good pacing, like I said. And overall, you know, I just think they did a pretty good job. Like, it was pretty tight-knit. There wasn't any major plot holes. Of course, there were a couple of plot holes, but I'll get into that later. But overall, I think the story worked, and it was just nice and simple and a lot of fun. I mean, like I said, this is a movie that's meant for kids, so you're not going to get into a lot of intricacies like you would with like a Blade Runner or any other movie. Like, the movie just works. It's a very simple, very straightforward story, and the twists and turns, like, they are a little bit predictable, but again, if I was a kid, I feel like my mind would have been blown. But as a millennial, you're like, okay, I kind of predict that this is what's going to happen, or Pikachu is, you know, like the whole thing with Pikachu being Tim Goodman's dad, like halfway through the movie, like I already kind of suspected that, right? And as soon as Mewtwo, like it was revealed that Mewtwo could fuse Pokemon and human souls together, I was just like, yep, there you go. And of course, the reveal of Bill Nighy's character being the villain, that was also very obvious. Like, you just kind of pick up on it just through lines of dialogue. Like, the first time you meet him, he has this whole thing about how humans need to evolve, that they need to reach their fullest potential, and how just impressed he is by Pokemon, how they are able to evolve. Like, you see that whole scene where he turns Eevee into a Flareon on his desk. Like, there was just something very sinister about that, and the whole thing where it's like, if you find Mewtwo, like, you'll find your dad. Like, instantly I was like, okay, he needs Mewtwo. Clearly from the beginning, like, there was this whole thing with Mewtwo being, like, stuck in a lab and how he escaped, and he needed Mewtwo back to reconstruct whatever experiment he was working on. Like, all of that became very obvious within that one scene. But if I was a child, if I was a kid under the age of 10 years old, I would have completely missed that, and the reveal that he was the villain would have been so impactful. But unfortunately, as an adult, you kind of pick up on stuff like that, so I guess I just wasn't, you know, surprised when he was revealed to be the villain. But the one big twist that I actually missed and I didn't see coming was the whole thing with Bill Nighy's son being trapped in a closet, and, you know, Ditto being revealed to be his son and his assistant. Like, that was a bit of a shocker, and I was honestly very disturbed. I don't know if this was a bit of fan service or this was something that they planned to do all along, but just seeing all of those humans with Ditto eyes was just so unnerving and just so disturbing. Like, seeing it on Pokemon is pretty fun and pretty cute, but to see it on humans, that was a little bit too much. But yeah, all of that aside, I did enjoy the different plot twists. I mean, as much as they were predictable as an adult, I really feel like they served the plot really well, especially for kids. Like, and for people who just weren't necessarily paying attention, they were just focused on enjoying the movie. I'm sure they were taken for a surprise as well, and I think it was just fine. Like, the plot had no big problems. Like, there was no part of it where I was just like, oh god, I really wish they didn't do that. Like, no, they did a really good job with the plot, so good on you, scriptwriters. Like, you guys did a really great job. But yeah, there were a couple of plot holes, and again, this is a little bit of nitpicking, and, you know, it's fine. Like, it's fine. Like, you know, the fact that Pikachu is falling down this building and he gets caught last minute, and Tim Goodman is at the 100th floor of this building, and then 5 seconds later, now he's on the first floor. Like, what elevator exists that it could take you from the 100th story of a building all the way to the ground floor within 5 seconds? I would like to never go on an elevator that goes that fast. But yeah, again, little nitpicks. I mean, you know, I don't know. There's not anything that's really an apparent issue with this movie. It's really a tight-knit script, and I really enjoyed it. I just want to say the filmmakers did a phenomenal job with this movie. I really appreciate the love and care that they had for this movie. It's just really great that they could do this, and I just wish a lot more video game adaptations, talking about you, Sonic, had the same kind of love and care. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I would love to know your thoughts regarding this movie. Let me know in the comment section below. And if it's your first time here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget that little bell as well. I am Count Jinsula, and I'll catch you all later.